Trash talking as we get ready for the National Football Show. Good afternoon, all. Miami versus Alabama, Labor Day weekend. And we're already talking trash, Krause and myself, as we get ready for the college football and NFL season. By the way, today, couple significant things happen in the National Football League. Are you ready? Buccaneers show up to the White House. Great to be a former Buck. How you doing? And also, the Dallas Cowboys show up to training camp as they get ready for the upcoming season and they get ready for the upcoming Hall of Fame game. So we're here, man. I mean, next week, when you think about it, right? July 27th and 28th in there, most of your NFL teams will be reporting and getting ready and kicking it off for the upcoming season. Your rosters are set. You got your 90 dudes. You're going to whittle that baby down to 53, and we're going to go play 60. Let's go play 60, baby. Let's find out at the end of the year who the best team in the NFL is. Good thing about the NFL, and the greatest thing about the NFL, nobody knows who's going to win the Super Bowl. You have predictions, and most of those predictions are off of last year. But you know what's great about the NFL? You always have surprise teams. You always have surprise moments, and you always have critical injuries to football teams, don't you? So that's what makes this league great. Who has the Warriors to go out and try to win a championship? That's what this bad puppy's going to come down to. So we look forward to it. Let's dive in now. And, you know, I was watching a little bit of the ceremonies at the White House today. Doesn't it look like it's a boatload of fun to be a Buccaneer? It just looks like it's fun. Brady's throwing jabs at 46. You know, I think 44% of the people on the planet think that we didn't win the Super Bowl. I mean, and then he was calling himself Sleepy Tom after he forgot the fourth down in Chicago. You know, throwing shade a little bit at Joe. You know, he's a Trump guy. But that's fun, man. This new Tom Brady, who's kind of loosened up a bit. Let me ask you something here. I was just wondering, watching the Buccaneers as they go through, you know, the preparation for the upcoming season, they never really got off the rails like the Eagles did. That thing's not going to unravel. Ever since the Eagles won the championship, that thing was going down, down, down. Hey, by the way, I'll throw this at the Falcons. After Brady came back from that 28-point deficit, had the Falcons even looked the same? Down, down, down. Look at all these teams that get into that game. What happens to them? If they win or lose, it's so hard to keep that consistency going and being a year-in-year winner, right? But when you got a guy like TB12, hey, man, there's no question focus is always going to be in that room. Let me ask you this. If Tom Brady had Bruce Arians as his head football coach for 21 years, do you think he'd have the same resume as Bill Belichick? Sure looks like it's a lot more fun to play for Bruce than it does Bill. Okay? Doesn't it look – hey, and tell me something. Doesn't the culture look like it followed Brady and left New England? All those championship runs? Doesn't it look like it wasn't just Brady that moved to the Bucs? Doesn't it look like the entire organization's culture moved to Tampa Bay? It like if you put the New England Patriots helmet on the Tampa Bay Buccaneer players, wouldn't they look like Pat players and the so-called Belichick way? Bruce looks like, I don't know, he looks like a boatload of fun. I love Bruce Arians, so I'm partial to that. You know, Bill's got a great resume, but at the end of the day, I'd rather play for a guy like Bruce Arians. I've known Bruce longer, so I'm partial, and again, I'm biased. But I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know. I think Bruce, is it a fair question? Would Bruce have the same amount of championships if Tom played his entire career in Tampa with him or wherever Bruce was? Arizona, Indianapolis, I don't know. You pick the team. It just looks to me that Bruce Arians has a looser group. They're held accountable. He makes it so it looks like it's fun to play. I don't know. I thought about that today as they were all at the White House and that great honor of being at the White House. You know, I mean, I just looked at it and went, man, that looks just like a boatload of fun to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So I don't know. I think Bruce Arians right now, hey, where would you rather play, in Tampa or New England? I think you asked Stephon Gilmore that question. He's not sure himself. So kudos to the Buccaneers today for going to the White House and the team showing up and Brady having some fun with the president. And that was a really good scene for the NFL. No politics, really, just some jabs and some fun. Nothing serious. Of course, it was trending, and everybody on the internet always gets their panties in a bind. Oh, my God, there's Brady. You know he's a Trump guy. And you're like, shut up, internet assassin. Yeah, those internet assassins. I had to put a couple down today. It's like roadkill. Some of these people on the internet and on Twitter like roadkill to me now. Really, guy? Scoot along, Junior. Mute. All right, let's move on. Now we move on to Aaron Rodgers. Aren't you sick? Yeah, I am. Won't lie. I'm absolutely sick of it. I'm sick of the dude. And I'm looking around the room and wondering what this guy wants. What does Aaron Rodgers want? It's being reported today that Aaron Rodgers was offered a 2-year contract extension. And that would have made him the highest paid player in the league. He turned it down. Okay. So let's analyze this for a second. It's not about money. It can't be about adding defensive players. I think they finished 9th in the NFL in total defense. They've got a running back who's a top 5 guy in Aaron Jones. Their offensive line, according to Pro Football Focus, is one of the top 5 units in the NFL. Their wide receiving core is as good as it gets in the league. I mean, what is this about? I'm trying to figure out what his bitch is now. Is it because they drafted, the quarterback without telling him? What is it? What's the issue? How about this? And I think that question's a fair question. What do you want, guy? Is it so much to say this? It's funny. Look at all the people that he's dated. Ends up breaking up with them. They have like a year or two. And Aaron Rodgers ends up breaking up with people. And I've been bringing this up, and I think it goes into his type of character that he has as a person and the kind of person that he is. He has no relationship with his parents or his brother. Now, look, I don't know if that's mutual, that both people are jerks. I have no idea. It's just, but when you tie everything in, he doesn't stay in relationships long. I would say this, wouldn't you? That the longest running relationship in Aaron Rodgers' life is the fact that he's played 16 years in Green Bay. That's the longest commitment that he's ever made in his life. And Aaron Rodgers, the way I look at how he lives his personal life and how he deals with people, doesn't seem like he likes long-lasting relationships. I'm not talking like I know the guy. I'm talking on what I see of the guy. All the things that we see peripheral, from 30,000 feet, watching Aaron Rodgers go through his life. Like I said, no relationship with his folks. Brother. He hates management in Green Bay. He turned down a contract that would have paid him more money than even Dak Prescott. So then what is it? Is it something internal? That you don't like long-lasting commitments? Your relationships with every girlfriend you've ever had have always been broken off. You're as petty as it gets. I mean, when you got drafted by the Packers, what happened when you got introduced on those nationally televised games? You mentioned your junior college instead of Cal. He's petty, and he doesn't like long-lasting relationships. Maybe, in the end, he's just sick of Green Bay. Just like he's sick of some of the chicks that he's dated or his family that he's been around. When he hangs around his friends, he picks his friends carefully. He picks a certain media people like McAfee to go to carefully because they know they'll get his message out. His entire life is really like, I don't know, there's like an angle to it. There's nothing genuine about it. Like when you look at Steph Curry or even Giannis, and you look at those guys and how they live their life, Steph's walking off the court one night. I'm watching the game. Golden State Warriors are playing, I think, the Sacramento Nobodies. And this guy's walking off the court. He takes his shoes off and he throws them to a kid. And the kid's looking up at him, and Steph signs him. And I'm like, dude, that's dope. That's great. 2 nights later, I saw LeBron do it. And I'm like, that's so orchestrated. He saw Steph do it because he saw how everybody on the internet and how everybody was just all over how cool Steph Curry is engageable. Steph Curry is genuine. Steph Curry looks like he's fun to be around. LeBron looks like everything is calculated. Now, look, when you make that kind of money and you have that kind of fame, I get it, man. Sometimes it's just the way life has to be. I get it. I understand it. But, dude, man, Aaron Rodgers, this guy's he just doesn't seem like a likable guy. Does that stop him and hold him up? Look, I'm not playing psychologist here. I'm just, like I said, looking at things on how I see him and how he's lived his life the last 16 public years. He's been in the public spotlight for 16 years. Takes over for Favre. That relationship was nowhere. Now, was it Rodgers or Favre? Does Favre look like he doesn't like to come up to people, slap him on the ass and go, how you doing, brother? Or is it more Rodgers just not being open and being petty? You know, everyone always blamed Brett for the relationship. I blame Rodgers for the relationship because every relationship in Aaron Rodgers' life has gone sour. I mean, name me one that has been something that has lasted outside of the Green Bay Packers and him being married for 16 years. This guy doesn't like long-lasting commitments. It just looks like. Brady was in New England for 20 years. Get this. You think Brady really liked all that BS that Belichick was throwing around him? This guy is a completely different dude compared to that dude we saw in New England. Tom Brady got so fed up with the place, he sold his home and his other house in New England and in Connecticut just to get the hell out of that area. Because he had it, man. Snow, all that stuff. These guys just bought a house, him and Giselle, in South Florida, and they got a place in Tampa now. Wouldn't shock me, man. They end up, just like everybody in New England, ends up retiring to Florida. Gas is cheaper. Money's better. We save more money. More things are open. You know? Not like New England, man. That Northeast? No way, man. Plus, you got political idiots running around there. You don't really have that in South Florida or in Florida general. I lived there for like 25 years. It's a great state to live. I don't know, man. Aaron Rodgers just seems like, you know, I saw that story this morning. So they offered him the most money. He's 37 years old. You're not going to get a 5-year contract. They gave him a 2-year extension that would have paid him over 42. Something like $45 million. I mean, think about that for a minute. They offered this guy $90 million for 2 years. He turned it down. Okay, then what is it? Bro, you guys, this is more of a you thing. Okay? You know, and I've been kind of critical of the Packers and how they communicate with people. These guys are still stuck in MySpace. I get it. You know, they still do things like with writing letters and stuff instead of sending emails. Okay, and so that way has always worked for them. That way has made the Packers 26-6 over the last 2 years. They made a right hire with Matt LaFleur. And I agree. And everybody that tells me, Matt LaFleur, what a great young head coach. Yeah, he's got Aaron Rodgers. Okay, you got Aaron Rodgers, you're going to win a lot of games, especially in the NFC North. You're going to win a lot of ball games. That guy can spin the pill, man. He's a great player. Don't kid yourself. So, yeah, as critical as I'm being right now, I'm talking about him more the person. I don't know. Does that look like a dude that you'd want to go out and have a beer with? Like Tom Brady. Yeah, man. Looked like I'd like to go out and have a beer with Tom. Okay? Guys like that, man. Sure. Drew Brees? Absolutely. Peyton Manning? For sure. Guy like Aaron Rodgers? This guy's going out for white wine spritzers. White wine spritzers. Hey, do you want a Cabernet or would you like a Merlot? I'll take the cake bread. Jesus, Sileo, I'm shocked you even knew what cake bread was. I actually like it. Okay? All right. So, I mean, Aaron, what the hell do you want, guy? It just doesn't make sense. All right. I'm going to tie something in with what's going on tonight in the NBA Finals, Game 6 tonight with Giannis. And Giannis, without a doubt, is one of these guys that he said something in 2014 that I just absolutely love. I just absolutely love what he said in 2014 when he was a 17-year-old rookie going into the Milwaukee Bucks. And that was, I'm never leaving Milwaukee until we make this place a championship caliber basketball team. And get this, is like, unlike LeBron with Chris Bosh, D Wade, or Shaq and Kobe, or like some of the dream team guys that have made these dream teams, like, you know, these super teams. Giannis doesn't really have. Middleton, come on. Okay, there's no really a second dude in Milwaukee. This is Giannis. This is like Isaiah Thomas back in the day with the Detroit Pistons. It was Isaiah, sure, Joe Dumars, and then who? Rodman and Mahorn and Lambeer. Kind of B-plus guys. Giannis is in Milwaukee right now, and it's him. He has a shot tonight to close out the Phoenix Suns to win an NBA championship for the first time, I think, since 71, when Lou Alcindor was there. I'm getting to the football tie-in here. So I'm like, that's so awesome, man. It's an old school mentality. Brady's got an old school mentality. You think Tom would have truly ever left New England if he didn't win a Super Bowl? No way. No way. LeBron James, on the other hand, Kevin Durant, on the other hand, and some of these other guys, it's about their brand. It's not about team. It's about their legacy. They're more concerned about their legacy. And just so happens that ties in to try to winning a championship. That's why you see some of these guys. Look at LeBron, man. Watch this. The Cavs twice, the Heat, the Lakers. This guy's moved 4 times to win those 4 championships. Kevin Durant had to leave Oklahoma City to go win a couple championships in Golden State. He's on his 3rd team. And I'm sure there'll be more teams as he gets later in his career. James Harden's now on his 2nd team. These guys are all about their brand, and they know for a fact that they need to have a championship so that they're marketable when it comes to building their brand. Giannis ain't worried about building a brand. Tom Brady's not worried about building a brand, because you know what builds a brand? Winning. How fans see you. You see how crazy those fans in Milwaukee are going for Giannis? Man, they're outside that arena. They're cheering their ass off. They love that team. That guy is now entrenched in that culture. I would say this to you. Who do you think is more revered in Milwaukee and in the state of Wisconsin right now? Aaron Rodgers or Giannis? Who do you think fans have more of a tie-in to, more relatable to? Who do you think fans look at and revere more? Giannis or Aaron Rodgers? He closes this bad puppy out, and I'm rooting for him. Even though I do like the Chris Paul story, and I do. I would say this to you flat out here, that tonight, this guy's got a chance before the age of 26. Think of this for a second. 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP. If you really want to put it in context here, Jordan didn't really start winning until he was 29. This guy's resume here, I don't know. You could put him up with some of the all-time greats, and I'm talking Kobe. I'm talking guys like that. When you're talking about championship dudes, even LeBron. And get this guy's a crappy-ass free throw shooter. He's got not the greatest mid-range shot. That guy improves at all, he'll be unguardable. And you know what's great about him? He wants to improve. This guy's all about community, man. You know, he's all about community. Funny, I saw it today. Twitter's so smart. Did you see who they wished happy birthday to today? They wished happy birthday to Ben Simmons. Hey, Twitter is such a mousetrap. It is, man. It is such a mousetrap because they know every single person in Philly. Happy birthday, Ben Simmons. Get that scumbag out of here. Are you kidding me? Happy birthday. This guy's out with Instagram chicks. Are you kidding? And he lives in Southern California. He ain't a Philly guy. Yeah. He ain't a Philly dude. Happy birthday, Ben. Look at Ben. He don't want to be a part of the Philadelphia culture. When you're part of something like that, man, and it's so important to be part of the culture that you're playing in. Look at what Ben Roethlisberger did in Pittsburgh. Man, when you think of the quarterbacks that have played in that place, not even Terry Bradshaw looked like he fit in. Terry's some like dude from Louisiana, right? And he got parachuted in that place, and you're like, but Ben looks like he's a Steeler. The face of the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback, as great as Bradshaw's postseason record was with those 4 Super Bowl championships, hard to ever argue against that. But come on, man. The quarterback in the history of the franchise is Ben. And everybody related to the dude, they're in. Here, I'll give you another guy. How about guys like Cal Ripken or Tony Gwynn? Tony Gwynn was San Diego. Tony Gwynn went to San Diego State, played his baseball at San Diego State, played his basketball at San Diego State. Then he had a legendary Hall of Fame career in San Diego. Stayed his entire career when he could have had options. You know, the Players Association used to get on his ass. Tony, man, you got to look out for the next guy. And he would give teams or the team the hometown discount because he wanted to stay in San Diego and be a part of the community. Same thing with Cal Ripken. Wait, you don't think Cal could have picked up and went somewhere else? I think that's so essential, man. When you want to be embraced by a community, that you become part of that community. Especially, hey, look, I'm not talking about some stiff like me. I'm talking about when somebody's trying to make you the face of that franchise. So essential, man, that you become part of what's going on. And how about this? Have an awareness. Here's Ben Simmons. I know my free throw shooting. I'm going to work on it. Yeah, I'll get to that here in a sec. Hang on. I got to look at these 5 Instagram chicks that oh, yeah, thank God I can message them. Now, what'd you ask me about my free throws? Oh, yeah, thanks for the happy birthday stuff. Hey, how you doing? All right. We will have our Hall of Fame insider from Sports Illustrated on with us, and we're going to talk to Howard Balzer. I'll ask him what he thinks Aaron Rodgers wants. We'll ask him some Hall of Fame questions, Cowboys report. We'll ask him about the boys. That's all next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back, National Football Show. Dan Sileo. Happy birthday, Ben Simmons. Hey, Twitter, man. Happy birthday, Ben Simmons. Like, how many people do you think on the planet even know who that guy is outside of Philly? Right? Between Ben Simmons and Bryce Harper, man. It's like Casper the Ghost. Who? Who are these guys? Well, these guys are the highest paid guys potentially on their teams. You know, Ben Simmons is one of the highest paid players in the league. Yeah, I couldn't pick him out in a police lineup. What about Bryce Harper? Unless he wears the gold shoes and has the gold spikes on, I don't know. I mean, is he hitting his body weight this year? I mean, some of these guys get their money, right? And they fall back on their wallets, take their 4 swings, jump in their Ferraris, go home and go, hey, thanks for the money. Maybe I'm jealous because NBA guys and Major League Baseball dudes, they get these guaranteed contracts. You sign a guy to that money, man, it's an anchor around your neck. Remember years back when the Magic signed Grant Hill and he was all banged up, had an injury? Get this, I used to have a show on back in the day. Now I'm back on in Orlando again on my national radio show. And he missed 76% of his games played in Orlando on that 5-year contract that he had. And he made $92 million. Missed 76% of his games. He went to Phoenix and kind of finished up his career. He wasn't bad, but he was never the same dude that he was in Detroit. And, man, when you sign these guys to that money, that's why the NFL is always going to be king. You know why? The NFL guys aren't tied to these contracts. Now, they're getting more so, but why do you think they changed the CBA? Why do you think a guy like Jerry Jones went like this? It wasn't so much about the payout of $51.49 when it came to the television revenue with the Players Association and the owners. It was that the CBA wasn't team-friendly so that if you have a Carson Wentz deal or if you have a Matthew Stafford deal, Todd Gurley, and you have to eat some money, you want to be able to defer that money out so that it doesn't destroy your salary cap for years. You may have to take a hit for 1 year, but it's not going to cripple you for the next 5 years. Like when you're an NBA guy and your guy gets banged up like Amari Stoudemire or someone like that, and you sign one of these guys, these max deals, you're eating that contract and you're paying that dude, whether he's playing in the G League or he's playing for your main team. It don't matter. You're paying that dude. You owe that guy the money. NFL, no way. They'll get out from every deal they have, and if they can, they will. And if they can find cheaper dudes, they will. That's what makes that league so much better than the rest of the leagues because a contract's not going to cripple a team for years to come. Name me a contract that's really killed a team for like 5 or 6 years. NFL gets out from under those deals, man. You may see a deal hurt a team for 2 years, okay? But it ain't going to be like those NBA deals, those 7-year contracts, or those Major League Baseball contracts that sometimes you sign a guy to a giant contract like those Mookie Betts deals. Hey, man, no question. MLB and those players, maybe I'm just jealous. All right. One of my favorite people to talk to when it comes to getting ready for an upcoming NFL season is our friend Howard Balzer. He is a Hall of Fame voter, and he is also working now with Sports Illustrated, mostly around the Arizona Cardinals, and he joins us now here on the National Football Show. How you doing, Howard?
Pretty good, pretty good. Don't be jealous, Dan. Don't be jealous.
I hate those guys got guaranteed deals, man. But I said, Howard, that's really the secret of the league, isn't it? That the league doesn't get really tied into these contracts. Now, look, 1 or 2 years, like look at what's going on in Atlanta. You know, you're looking where you see that there's $60-some-odd million still on that contract. It's probably why they didn't move Matt Ryan. So I get that now. You're kind of seeing a little bit more of that. But you can move off these deals like you saw in Detroit, like you saw with Wentz. I mean, the NFL is they're not really anchored to these contracts like these other leagues are.
But I think the reality that always has to be pointed out, and we see it from NFL players every year, when NBA free agency starts, players go nuts on what the money that these guys get. But remember, it's not that many guys per team. I mean, there's 11, 12 guys on an NBA team, 25 players on a baseball roster. NFL has 53 guys, and there's all ranges of salary. And so the NFL play, now remember, it has nothing to do with the collective bargaining agreement. These are all individually negotiated contracts. And I'll tell you something, like Kirk Cousins, there could every let's say established veteran in the NFL could get guaranteed contracts if they agree to a 2 or 3 year deal. But they don't do that. They want 5 and 6 years, and then so they can spread out the salary cap and the hit and all those things. And agents love to add those extra years on with money that probably won't be earned, but they can say a guy got this crazy contract. And so that's how the system works, so to speak. But yet, do a short-term deal, everybody could have guaranteed contracts. But they end up doing it this way, where a lot of times the first 2 or 3 years, like you pointed out, are guaranteed. But after that, hey, if the guy can't play anymore or something happens, then the team's going to move on from him when they still have some salary cap, penalties, depending on what the signing bonus was. So it's just the nature of the system when you have that many guys. If you were guaranteeing 5 and 6 year contracts for all these guys, teams would have no cap space in some years. All of a sudden injuries would hit and all those things. And we know what a factor that is in the NFL, because the guy's contract, it all counts against the cap when you're injured. And so that's, baseball doesn't have a cap. So those are all aspects of it, I think, that are sometimes lost on the general public.
Let's go into contracts now. And it was reported this morning that Aaron Rodgers was offered a 2-year contract extension that would have made him the highest paid annual player in the league. Howard, I have a question for you. Okay, if it's not money, is it more offensive players? Wait, he's got a top 5 running back. His wide receiving core is one of the best cores in the league. His offensive line is ranked by Pro Football Focus as one of the top 5. His defense was 9th. I'm trying to figure out what this guy wants. I mean,
here's
what's
the thing,
he want?
This has been somewhat known throughout the entire offseason. There was big meetings between his agent and the team, and with him and the team, but way back. And then they put in a roster bonus this year, which was extra money for this year. And all these things were discussed then. But here's the key. You can say he's the highest paid player in the NFL by adding these 2 years to it. But are they guaranteed? We're just talking about guarantees. If they're not guaranteed, then they don't mean anything. Then they can just move on from Aaron Rodgers at that point and say, okay, it's time for us to go to Jordan Love. And that's what Rodgers has believed all along is the goal of the team. He believes that after this season, that Jordan Love was going to be the quarterback next year, because he'll be in his third. Well, let's see. Yeah, he'll be in his third year. And after the third year, you have to decide whether to give the player the 5th-year option, which this year was around $19 million. And if you haven't played the guy by the third year, then you have no basis to make a decision going forward. And then you get into that no man's land of after the 4th or 5th year, then there has to be a new contract. Well, how do you give a new contract and big money to a guy who's hardly played? So he believes that their plan was to move on from him, and that by throwing money in a deal that probably was not, if it was guaranteed, don't you think he would have taken it? Of course he would have taken it, but it wasn't guaranteed. He wanted what you're saying. You know what he wants? He wants to say, okay, you're saying you want me for the future beyond this year and all that. Okay, well then show it to me and guarantee my contract. And that they wouldn't do.
Do you think some of the financial issues that the Packers have reported last week with the $38 million loss because of local revenues over the pandemic and the fact that they run their team a lot differently than every other team, obviously the ownership issue has always been there for the Packers. Do you think this is a money thing, or do you think that this is just, again, this is a relationship scenario that the Packers want to move on from? And I want to add something else to this question too for you here, Howard. Think of this for Aaron Rodgers as a person. He's got an estranged relationship with his family, his mother and father, his brother.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have really great relationships with anybody, only handpicked friends. The longest relationship in his entire life has actually been his relationship with the Packers. Even his girlfriends, a year and a half. And again, I'm doing this from 30,000 feet. I'm just looking at his public life here for 16 years. I'm just looking at it for what it is. Then this negotiating, then all of this stuff going on. Then the Packers they're reporting the money loss. Do you think the Packers just want to move on from this?
Well, that's what he believes. And I think most everyone looks at it and thinks that that's what they wanted. And they weren't counting on Aaron Rodgers having an MVP caliber year last year. I mean, the guy, he had 48 touchdown passes. The last 3 years combined, he's only had 11 interceptions. And so he believes that that's what their plan was to move on, didn't communicate with him. And I know a lot of people say, well, it's not the team's job to communicate with a guy. Well, when you're at a certain level, shouldn't you? I mean, the Chiefs communicated with Alex Smith when they drafted Patrick Mahomes. The 49ers communicated with Jimmy Garoppolo throughout in this entire offseason about their plan to draft a quarterback at 3rd overall. So you could argue that Aaron Rodgers at least deserves some communication. Well, the Packers are not an organization that communicates with players. Their GM and their personnel people are in one part of the building. They're not the most personable guys, from Ted Thompson, who was the previous GM, to now Brian Gutekunst. And you raised a good point, I think, with no ownership. In other organizations, if there was some of this, whatever you want to call it, going on, the owner would step in and say, hey, you got to take care of this. We got to take care of Aaron Rodgers. Now, if they could convince the owner that that's not what we want to do, well, then okay, then communicate to him that. And let's figure out how we're going to handle this. But I think you could argue on both sides it hasn't been handled the greatest, but a certain amount of it is the product of the way that the Packers operate. But I don't think it's pure money, Dan. I don't think it's pure money. I think that they just felt that it was probably time to start not only looking at his replacement, but figuring out when that was going to be. Didn't want to go through another Brett Favre situation where Aaron Rodgers sat as long as he did. And that became, isn't it interesting? The last 2 quarterback situations with them have both had their, a lot of dysfunction about them. So is that only the player, or is the organization contributing to a certain degree about that? But yeah, and with the Packers reporting those numbers, they report them every year. I mean, they're a public company. So every year right around this time is when they have their board meeting and the fans come, and I think they're having it next week, where they announce their figures. And they're all public. It also gives us all a look into what the NFL numbers were, especially in national revenue. But that's why they announced them, because they always do. But I don't think this had to do with money, because everyone expects that with new TV contract in 2023, more national revenue, fans are coming back, that most of that, if not all, and maybe more of that lost local revenue will return. So I think this was just more about moving on from Aaron Rodgers. And here they had a guy who's now had an MVP year. And how does that look if all of a sudden everyone believes you're moving on from him at some point in the near future?
I got to say, these crybaby quarterbacks, and maybe this is coming from a defensive guy, Howard, here. I mean, these guys are all whining, because to me, how many times do you see NFL teams drafting a guy at a defensive line position, even if you have like Reggie White or if you have like Bruce Smith? Every team drafts guys to upgrade their D-line or their O-line or a wide receiver, and you don't hear the moaning and crying that goes on with these guys. I know internally you bitch and cry, but nobody cares. Is it just so much that the quarterback position in our country now has turned out to be that it's the most significant position in all of sports now in America, that if you're an American quarterback, I was making a comparison. If I lined up Bryce Harper in a police lineup, I guarantee you nobody would pick him out. But if I put Matthew Stafford, and I'm not even talking about the main guys who are the big face quarterbacks in the league, I bet you half the half the people would pick out Matthew Stafford. Is it just because that position has become so large in this country?
No, that's a big part of it. But the other thing is you want one quarterback. Every other position. If you have a great defensive lineman, you're always looking for depth. No defensive, no great pass rushing defensive end plays all the snaps in a game. So you always have depth at those positions and guys that play during the game. Everything goes right. You don't want your quarterback coming out if he's the right guy for your team. And so that's your one guy. And I think a lot of times, Dan, it's the hardest position, not only on the field, but off the field to navigate for a coaching staff. And especially when you get into these times when you're getting that guy who's up there in years. How do you plan for his replacement? And you don't know how long it's going to be for that player to continue playing at a high level. I mean, look at the Patriots. They ended up trading Jimmy Garoppolo. They never thought Tom Brady would continue playing that long, but here he is still playing. So that also makes it difficult for a team to figure out what they're going to do. I mean, the Saints kind of went through it. They never really drafted, quote, the replacement for Drew Brees. The Steelers, really didn't draft. They drafted guys in the third or fourth round, but they didn't draft guys high who were going to be the eventual replacement for Ben Roethlisberger. It just didn't happen. But when you get a guy in the first round, all of a sudden that raises the alarm bells and raises the red flags on a team when you already have a very good veteran quarterback and you have to navigate the locker room and all those things. So it's not an easy position to handle when you get into one of those type of situations.
You mentioned the Steelers. Are you thumbs up or thumbs down on them moving forward with Mike Tomlin and what they have in their roster? They went after and got Melvin Ingram, which I would say this to you, Howard. Yes. That's not something that they do as an organization, going out and, signing free agents. Probably got them on a bargain deal. Yes. To bring him in because that's what the Steelers are known to do. But, I mean, are you thumbs up or thumbs down on them?
I'm very conflicted for this reason because they've got serious issues on the offensive line that it seems a lot of people aren't paying attention to. Everyone's, they got Najee Harris. All of a sudden the running game issue is solved. Well, who's blocking for him? They have one guy, Dan. They had 5 guys who started a lot of games on that line last year at those positions. And the only one that is returning is the right tackle who most of the people in the NFL never even heard of, Chukwuma Okorafor. He's the only one. Marquise Pouncey retired. I'm trying to remember who else. Alejandro Villanueva left. Matt Filer left. And there was another guy. So they've lost their entire offensive line. And they have a handful of guys coming back that played maybe 2 or 3 games last year when one of those starters couldn't play. But they're patching it together. And I think that's their huge question going into this season is how and if that offensive line will come together.
You mentioned also New Orleans. Do you think the quarterback is in New Orleans right now, or do you think they're going to have to go out? And if you're Sean Payton, do you feel more comfortable having to develop a guy coming out of the draft? I don't really see a lot of big-time guys, maybe the Oklahoma kid, Rattler, coming out this year. But, I mean, will you be even in a position to go after him? Or do you think it's a position where Sean and the organization, I believe it's Mickey Loomis, they go out and they try to find a free agent, and maybe that guy is Aaron Rodgers? Because if I'm Aaron Rodgers, Howard, you got Thomas, you've got Alvin Kamara, you've got a hell of a defense on that other side of the football. If there's one landing spot for him, in my opinion, and you've got the play calling coach, it's not Denver, it's New Orleans. Could you see them maybe going there?
Are you talking about this year or going forward
year.
Next year? I think it depends on one guy, and that's Jameis Winston. Because Jameis Winston has proven he can play in this league. But obviously we all know the issue. He just gives the ball away too often, and quite often gives it away in key situations. And that last year in Tampa Bay, they were in the playoff hunt at the end of the season, and then they lost games. He had fourth quarter interceptions, and Bruce Arians just threw his arms up in the air and said no more. Although I still wonder what would have happened if they hadn't been able to sign Tom Brady. I think Jameis Winston might have been back. But in that same year, where whatever it was, 30 interceptions I think he had, he also passed for over 5,000 yards and had 30 touchdowns. So the guy can play the position. but he just can't turn it over that much. And so I think if he has and it's not like every year he threw 30 interceptions, but he does have that, I guess, knack, whatever word you want to use, for making mistakes at all the worst possible times. So if Sean Payton can somehow coach that out of him, and he has a pretty good year this year, then I could see him playing for several years for the Saints, and Sean Payton might feel, hey, I've got my guy. Now, if it doesn't work out that way, then we'll have to see what they do. I don't believe Taysom Hill is the answer in terms of playing every down. So it could be a rookie next year, or like you said, it could be a free agent. But the last year or two have been unusual in terms of the number of quality quarterbacks that have come on the market. That doesn't often happen. Maybe it will next year, and they'll have a chance to get a guy. But it could very well be that they'll get a guy, a veteran, and then also draft someone who they can build around. But like I said, I think it all revolves around what Jameis Winston does this year, because I'd be surprised if he is not their opening day quarterback, unless he's just awful in the preseason.
Couple last questions for you here. I want to get a couple Hall of Fame questions in for you. It's funny, I brought this up earlier on the show, and it just looked like these guys were having so much fun at the White House today, the Buccaneers. Yeah. I mean, doesn't it look like Bruce Arians has really a great culture, and it looks like he's just so much fun to play with? I'm wondering, if Tom Brady had played his entire career for Bruce Arians, would he have Bill Belichick's resume as well? Because I'll tell you something, Tom Brady's a different dude. He looks like he's enjoying himself. And I would say this to you, Howard. I'm watching Stephon Gilmore debating a contract up there, negotiating a contract. That never went on when Tom was there. Everybody signed for the pennies that they gave him, not the nickels and quarters. But I would say this, that culture looks like it's Tom culture. If you put the Patriots helmets on the Buck players, they look like the New England Patriots. I mean, would Arians' resume be different if Brady played with him the entire time?
It's a great question. I will say that there were issues with the Patriots where Chandler Jones moved on. I just had that. Richard Seymour moved on. So there were some situations. Remember that one year where they cut, who was the defensive back? All of a sudden, it's escaping me. They cut him like right in the last cut, and everyone's, that's it for the Patriots. And they lost the first couple of games. In fact, they got blown out by Buffalo in week 1. And everyone's, that's it for them. And then they came back and went 14-2 and won the Super Bowl. Can't believe I can't remember. It was a safety. But they've kind of had those issues in the past. But we saw the story last week from a backup type guy, Cassius Marsh, who said, hey, that New England way it works, but it's not a lot of fun playing for them. And like you said, you see Brady having fun just in interviews, just being a different guy, because when you're in New England, you have to watch every word you say because you're under the microscope. But the comments he made to the president today in his remarks were hilarious. And so, but yeah, if he had been with Bruce, yeah. What the question is though, would they have won 7 Super Bowls? I mean, you can. I don't know. I mean, that's awful hard to say. What Belichick put in place over a long period of time in New England not only is unprecedented, it probably will never happen again. And so that culture that they built, whether it was fun or not, led to an awful lot of winning. Bruce Arians is a darn good coach, but does it also mean though that they would have won as many times with Brady as he did with New England? That's hard to say. But if they did, yeah, Bruce Arians would be a Hall of Famer. There's no question about it.
Couple last questions for you here on the Hall of Fame now. I'm going to throw some names at you here. You ready?
I'm
Richmond
ready.
Webb.
Excellent tackle. I mean, there's a lot of tackle. I mean, and I was looking at the list, Dan, of the seniors guys who are just being discussed. Well, not actually, I shouldn't even say being discussed, just being voted on to get to a final 15. And you have guys like Willie Anderson and Chris Hinton. I'm just trying to remember someone. I mean, you look at those at all positions, much less tackle, and you say, man, that guy was a heck of a player. And it's just, I know you asked me about Ed White, in recent years. He's on that seniors list. So there's a lot of those guys that were really, really good players, but for whatever reason didn't get the accolades or whatever it might be. You could argue are deserving, but it's, again, as I always say, it's awfully tough to crack that top 15 and make it. And that's usually reserved for the Orlando Paces and Walter Joneses and Jonathan Ogdens and Willie Roafs and guys like that.
Joe Jacoby.
That's another guy. I mean, all those great years with the Redskins, he was a finalist, I think, twice in his last 2 years of modern day eligibility. And a heck of a player there on that Hogs line. I think a lot of people look at that line. I guess Russ Grimm is in.
Russ Grimm.
And it took him several years to make it. But I think a lot of people looked at that. It was a great line together, but there wasn't one or two just absolute standouts. Well, Grimm did get in, but I think it took about 6 or 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. And so, Jacoby had some good support when he finally made it as a finalist. Didn't make it. Now he's in that, what I call the abyss of the seniors class, because, man, that is awful tough to emerge from that with the number of players that are being considered. And there's now only one per year that will advance to become finalists for election.
I'm partial to this man because he's a friend of mine and he's a Hurricane, but he made the Pro Bowl 7 times. His name is Dennis Herrera. And Dennis told me that he said this, that, when the team moved to St. Louis, a lot of the guys fell into the crack of them kind of being forgotten a little bit. Every year he said that he played, their offensive line either led the NFL in rushing or they were second every year he played. And I believe he played 13 seasons and he went to the Pro Bowl 7 times. I mean, here's another guy. I mean, when you look at some of the guys that may have made the Pro Bowl with 4 or 5, he's got 7. I mean, where's Dennis Herrera in this?
Yeah, it's impressive. I mean, and he's just there on that list. I was thinking of another guy as you were talking, Ken Hull.
Hull.
I don't think there's anybody on the Bills
great center
of those great Super Bowl teams, and he's on the seniors list and never really got traction in all the voting. And some of it, Dan, I think is because there's so many players that we all consider at so many different positions that I don't want to say it like kind of narrows it somewhat, and it's opened up more in the last few years with more defensive players, with more offensive linemen. But there was a time it's just human nature. Oh, you're looking at the quarterbacks with all the numbers, the receivers with all the numbers, the running backs with all the numbers. And when you start voting on the semifinalists and the finalists, it's those guys that stand out in people's mind. And I think that's to the detriment of some of the defensive guys. I'll tell you, I remember, and this was some years ago now, but I remember when Roger Worley was elected in his final year of eligibility, a great cornerback for the St. Louis Cardinals. And there's a guy you could argue everyone forgot about him when the Cardinals left St. Louis. But when he went in, he was the first defensive back that had been elected in a decade.
Wow.
And that just shows you it. And it was most years it would be, if you looked at the top 15, it would be 10 offensive guys and 5 defensive players. That started changing. It started changing. And of course, a lot of the defensive guys that started entering were the pass rushers. And then there was a run on them for a bunch of years with pass rushers getting in. Recently, finally, we on the committee are recognizing safeties. I mean, I think there's only, up until a few years ago, there'd only been like 6 or 7 pure safeties ever enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And now we've had more with seniors like Kenny Easley and Johnny Robinson the guy from the Eagles, Brian Dawkins, and others. So finally, safeties are being recognized. But sometimes, like you said, guys just fall through the cracks, and some positions do. I think it's starting to be made up for, but it takes a while to make up for it all.
One more guy. Is it because of the injury to Darryl Stingley that we don't debate Jack Tatum? Because was there a more – I mean, I look at some of the safeties that are being debated. And by the way, John Lynch, fantastic safety. I don't know a better tone setter than Jack Tatum, than anybody who has ever played in the National Football League. When you think of those Raider teams and the identity of the Raiders, you think of George Atkinson and you think of Jack Tatum. I know that you're probably going to throw Hendricks into the conversation too, and you're going to throw maybe even Alzado in the conversation. And I think Lyle should be considered. But again, there's a steroid stigma with him that people may not want to put him in. He had over 100 sacks unofficially. But where's Tatum in the conversation? Does he ever get brought up, or is he just a forgotten hero?
No, he's on the seniors list, but I think that it just doesn't get that much traction. And and whether in people's mind it is.
Is it because he's a Raider too?
That could be part of it. I mean, the Raiders have had a lot of guys go into the Hall of Fame, and how about a guy like Cliff Branch?
Oh,
I mean,
God.
Some would argue Cliff Branch was a difference maker on those Raiders team instead of Fred Biletnikoff, and that's not to take anything away from Fred Biletnikoff, but Branch has been like a seniors finalist in discussion like 10 times and hasn't been able to advance. So the Tatum thing could be because of the Raiders. It could be the Stingley deal. I mean, we have Steve Atwater is being enshrined this year, but he was elected last year in the modern day group. But I think he was I think it was his 17th year of modern day eligibility, and he'd only been a finalist for a couple of years. Right. Sometimes guys are just forgotten right when 5 years after they retire. And so everyone looks at that list and they see all these names, and it's just, you're trying in your own mind when you vote to pick the best ones, but you're always overlooking, especially when when I do it, Dan, I'll tell you something. Pure transparency here. When I get a list and I vote for 25, I go through it and I'll go through it. And the ones that are obvious to me, I just go boom, 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 boom. And then when I get to the end, I count up how many I have. And a lot of times I have maybe 10 or 11. Well, then all of a sudden now you're picking another 14 or 15. And how much difference is there between the 14 or 15 that I happen to check the box than from another 10 guys that I didn't? And that's what separates it. And the one thing I often say is that when the vote goes to 25 for the semifinalists and then the 15 for the finalists, it's just done by how many votes somebody gets. The one thing we don't know is that we have 25 semifinalists. Who knows how many votes the 26th guy missed by? I guarantee it was 1 or 2 votes at most. Well, it can't be any less than 1, obviously, but it's not very many. And that's, I'm sure, the same thing when it goes from 15 to 10. There's some guys who get most of the votes, the clear guys. But then you get to really excellent players that there's not that much difference between. And I think that's one of the things with the process that isn't talked about a whole lot. I wish they would announce the votes. Then again, I'm going to say, well, how could he only get that many? But I think that would truly show how close it is just in advancing in the process, which is the hardest thing of all, just to make it to that final 15.
Do me a favor, Howard. Throw out your website for folks so that they can go check your stuff out. I mean, you're one of my favorite people ever to talk to. I love talking Hall of Fame stuff with you. And how can people watch your stuff?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Dan. I always enjoy coming on with you. si.com/NFL/Cardinals. I'll sneak in some general NFL stuff there from time to time, but it's all starting pretty soon. But, the Cowboys and the Steelers report to training camp tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
That's great.
I can't believe it. We're here already.
The sun will come up tomorrow, and especially it's my birthday too, so it's going to be a great day in the NFL.
Happy birthday, my friend. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, Dan. Always enjoy it. Take care.
You bet. Howard Balzer, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. I love that process too. That's kind of how I do the College Football Hall of Fame votes. I get an opportunity to vote on the College Football Hall of Fame every year. So what I'll do is I get a certain number of players, and I do the same thing. I click the obvious. I look at the guys' names. I go, this guy's a Hall of Fame player. And you got to remember something about college game and the pro game. A lot of guys, when you look at the college football, you have to not look at, and you've got to take away what the guy did in the pros versus what he did in college. A guy like Anthony Munoz, he's never going to be a college football Hall of Famer. He missed his entire senior year. He never made All-American. He was a fine player, and he was one of the highest drafted players in the history of the sport for an offensive tackle. Went on to a legendary Hall of Fame career, but he didn't have a very good college career. So you're not going to put him in the College Football Hall of Fame because it's not warranted, because he didn't really have that great Hall of Fame career. So you've got to kind of like distinguish that. But that's kind of the process that I do. I look at, what did you do? What was your impact in the game? And how important were you when it came to, your team winning national championships? Were you always a contender? Are you considered one of the greatest players at your position or in your decade? So I love that entire process. And, man, we're here already, man. Football season, Steelers and the Cowboys reporting to training camp. All right, we're going to take a brief timeout. I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are on the Pittsburgh Steelers. They made a move yesterday, and I think they're trying to keep up with the Joneses. No Jerry Jones pun intended here. I'll explain. We'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back, Dan Sileo, National Football Show. Shaking my head here. Hang on. Let me get a shot of whiskey here. Oh, wait, it's water. Relax. So a college kid is going to make $1 million? This is so freaking great. This is everything I've dreamed about. I got into sports broadcasting because of the low-life NCAA people. You talk about child labor laws. I never knew how the NCAA never was held accountable for how they made these billions of dollars. You heard the B right. Billions of dollars without compensating these kids in basketball and in football. I never knew how they got away with it. Finally, Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh even came down. You're not above the law, dude. They act like a monopoly. And theoretically, they are a monopoly. They dictate how the player can transfer they set these unholy rules up for the players, but not the coaches. Get this. So a coach can go from one program to another without any kind of penalty. But if a kid goes to program, he's got to sit out. Who came up with that rule? Why? What was the premise on that? When you transferred, why did I have to sit out when I went from Maryland to Miami? Unfair competitive balance? Well, wait a minute. So when a guy like Brian Kelly leaves the University of Cincinnati at the Sugar Bowl, do you know how he did it? So he walks into a team meeting down in New Orleans. Team's down there getting ready to play. They're getting ready to play. I forget who it was in that, maybe Georgia. And he informs his team at a dinner the week of the Sugar Bowl that he's leaving for Notre Dame. The players are all sitting there going like this. What? You can't even coach one more game? I came here to play for you, and you don't have the decency to play and be a part of our play for one more game. Brian Kelly goes, I have to go to Notre Dame now. No penalty, no nothing. Scoots on right there. Player does that. Sit out, blackballed, all that other stuff by the NCAA. Their unholy rules have finally come to a head now where people see who and what they are. We had Tim Brando on with us a couple weeks ago, and even Tim goes, the NCAA, who's listening to them anymore? They're the biggest joke on the planet. And get this. Here's the prime example of this, and I'll get into Bryce Young here, the quarterback Alabama here in a second. Mark Emmert, the president of the NC2A, made $2.9 million last year during a pandemic where programs were being shut down. Women's programs, wrestling programs, volleyball programs. Schools lost hundreds of millions of dollars. And this guy's taking in 2.9, and get this, it was a bump up in money from a year previous. What did you do that was so iconic last year? You had no pulse or no control over the Big Ten, the Southeastern Conference, the Pac-12. You were just a dude last year. Personally, I think Mark Emmert has been the worst thing I've ever seen for the NCAA. Just a terrible CEO. Man, I wish we had somebody like Dana White. College football would prosper, and it would be maybe the second biggest sport in this country if Dana White was like the commissioner of that thing. Because I love the way Dana White runs UFC. Dana White's not going to listen to any politician. He's not going to listen to any TV dude. He's not going to listen to any analyst. He's going to do things his way, and he's going to tell you to shut the F up. Dana's not going to let a pandemic, just like Nick Saban's not going to let a pandemic get in his way. Tom Brady, pandemic, that's on you. Those guys used the pandemic to their advantage because they knew all the snowflake people that were out there were going to be humming and hawing. Well, I don't know. It kind of enlarges your heart, doesn't it? No, it turned out to be not true. Well, wait a minute. What about the mass outside? Kids in their 20s do not get sick from this. Yeah, but what about the, and you're like, Dana's like, shut up. I love the way he ran UFC. I do. So Mark Emmert and the NCAA, National Communist Association of America, finally going to have a pitchfork stuck in it. Thank God. Put that thing to rest, man. Honestly, put that thing down. I would say something else, but because of the snowflake rules for incitement, Big Sills is going to, I guess, learn how to edit himself. That thing really does need to be put down. Sorry, man. You're old now. Heart ain't working. It's time. Bye-bye. Time to get rid of that thing. Great story today. Nick Saban, the head coach, Alabama's not. And by the way, this guy wasn't even the starter on that team. Mac Jones was the starter last year. So Bryce Young now, the starting quarterback, who's going to go against my Canes Labor Day weekend. I don't know. Is he good? I think so. We'll see. He's closing in on $1 million in endorsements. Good for him. That is so great. And know this. Alabama probably looks at it like this. You know what's going to be good? It's going to be good for both. I'm going to show you how. You're not going to be able to do a billboard. You're not going to be able to do an endorsement without having the Alabama gear on. You don't think Alabama's going to want their cut of that? You're not going to be able to use logos. This is going to be an absolutely spectacular classroom for all of these kids to learn that, get this. Hey, if you want to go out and you want to have a white shirt on and you want to be Bryce Young and you don't have anything tied to you or anything is said to you about Alabama football, it's all yours. But once you start bringing in the conversation about Alabama football, hi, this is Bryce Young, the starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Well, now we got a problem here because now you're using our name and like, you know what's funny? What's really great is that the institutions now are going, wait a minute, it's our name and likeness now. But you've been using the kid's name and likeness to promote football games like the Iron Bowl for the last 100 years. But now you want your cut? If the kid gets a cut, how funny is that? How many times do you see a CBS ad and you see likeness of Tebow or Johnny Football or whomever, Tim Tebow? They used his likeness for all them years. I would say this, if I was Tebow and I was Johnny Manziel, I would go like this. You guys owe me some money for what you did in promoting the Texas A&M Texas game. All that money that you guys generated from that game, I think you guys may owe me money. Oh, are we just going from July 20th forward? Or July 1st, actually, since that rule got put in, the nil rule. I mean, it's starting then, because if that's the case, the NCAA would be broke by August. Can you imagine all the people that Deion Sanders and Playmaker, those guys when they were in college, man, how much money those dudes made, man? Think about that for a minute. Playmaker, and you had Prime Time. Dude, Prime Time would have made $1 billion in college. With those iconic nicknames, they made hundreds of millions of dollars with those names. Once they got to the NFL, they would have made the same money when they were in college. So Bryce Young now, and you know what you're going to get? You're going to get the old curmudgeons. By the way, we had Bill Hancock on the program, I don't know, about a month ago, and he's the executive director of the college football playoff. Remember what he said? Okay? Maybe we'll post that, and we'll put that on our JAKIB Media / National Football post after this, because you know what Bill Hancock said? If we start paying players, that's when the whole system goes to hell. Well, guess what, Bill? And I like Bill. I'm a fan of Bill. I'm a fan of college football. I'm not a fan of that comment. I think this is the greatest thing on the planet for college football and kids, because you get to learn business too. What's the sense of going to college if you can't start your own business? Aren't you looking? I mean, I know people who go to Harvard, and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, all those people who go to those colleges like that to learn to create something. That's why they go to those type of schools. Guy creates a social media platform that now he's one of the richest men on the planet, Mark Zuckerberg. You know how he started it? This guy started it with a website, Hot or Not. Is this chick hotter than this chick? That's how he started it. Then it went into the Facebook, and then it went to Facebook. This guy here, that's who he went to Harvard to try to start a business. Well, look at what these kids are doing. What's the difference? No difference. Or when somebody goes to a Ivy League school or any college, be a doctor. You learn how to become a doctor. Well, when you're a professional athlete, it's more than just playing on Sundays today. The economics, the identity, the logo, the imaging, all of that. today is essential in you growing a brand. What a better classroom. I mean, actually, if you think about it, a guy like Bryce Young at Alabama, this should be part of his curriculum. This should be part of him graduating. So wait a minute. Bryce Young made $1 million as a starting quarterback at Alabama, and you're not going to look at that if you're Alabama and go, here's 3 credits. Here's 3 credits for what you're doing right now because you're now a trendsetter for Alabama. Look, I heard that De'Ara King, the starting quarterback for Miami, I think he just signed a $25,000 endorsement deal, and I think he's got a couple more. I think he's over $150,000. That's fantastic. Okay, that's fantastic. And those 2 programs, because of the logos and the iconic program and who they're playing for, you know, Miami and Alabama, you throw those logos and those helmets on the field, you know who they are. So you're gonna attract people like that. This is the best thing on the planet. Now, you know what you're going to hear? Yeah, well, what about the smaller programs? How about this here? You know what's crazy? I always get this conversation when people throw this at me. Well, wait a minute. Is it fair that Alabama has players that can make $1 million and San Diego State or San Jose State doesn't have a player on the roster that, can't make any money? Have you ever heard of free enterprise? Not every franchise makes it. Not every business makes it. Just because Alabama makes the kind of money they make, they shouldn't have to share with you. Look at the amount of decades that they spent building that brand up. What have you done with your program? Just because your program doesn't generate that kind of revenue, that has nothing to do with Alabama. 0. You must not. How about this? I'll give you an example of a school that built their brand up to being one of the most iconic brands in the country, and they're a tiny school. You ready? There's 2 of them. What about Gonzaga? Do you even know what conference Gonzaga plays in? Gonzaga, the basketball team that you see every year with these tremendous records and always playing in the NCAA tournament. Now you're starting to see guys go into the NBA from those programs. Look at what they did. You know what they did? They canned their football program. They put all their economic resources into their basketball program. And you know what they have? They have an iconic basketball program because they wanted to have an iconic basketball program. Look at Duke. Duke's a small school. You think they care about their football program? Duke is decent, but it's nothing to – look at all those schools in the ACC. North Carolina's gotten better because they got Mac Brown there now. But look at Wake Forest. Wake Forest football? Okay. NC State football? Really, even Maryland. Maryland's known for being a basketball school. Okay, now they're in the Big Ten. I get it. But I'm all those ACC programs, they were all basketball, Tobacco Road guys. Okay? Right? Clemson is a football school. Clemson's not a hoop school. Put most of their resources into and most of these programs around the country that try to have both, you know what you end up having? Mediocre programs on both levels, basketball and football. That's what Miami's trying to do. You know why Miami is not Miami of 25 years ago? They got a basketball program they're now funding. When I played at Miami, and people have forgotten this, when I played at the University of Miami, we didn't have a college basketball program. It was a baseball program, and they won 4 national titles. And we have a football program, and we won 5 national championships. We didn't have basketball. We didn't have basketball until my senior year at Miami, when they restarted the program up. So we didn't have to put any of our resources into a basketball program. Why do you think Miami, like in a 10-year span, do you know this? Miami won 58 consecutive games at home. You know that's 11 years? We didn't lose a game for 11 years at the Orange Bowl. And in that process, we didn't have a basketball program. But since we instituted that basketball program, we had to start paying money in 2002, 3, and all that when we went to the ACC and out of the Big East. Miami football has had one 10-win season in 20 years. Think of that for a minute. So my point is, maybe this is going to weed out all these programs that shouldn't have a basketball and a football program. Not everybody's the Southeastern Conference. Speaking of that, look at the SEC. What's the most dominant college basketball pro? And by the way, you know why Alabama basketball is starting to kick into high gear? And you're starting to see Alabama basketball as a player now in the national landscape? Because the football program generates so much money. And the Southeastern Conference is like the Premier League, like I said. Do you think the SEC needs the Big Ten? Watch this. If the SEC decided to play just themselves and nobody else, I'd still watch that more than any other programs in the country. Watching Big Ten football, watching Ohio State run over Michigan again, that's not that entertaining to me anymore. And what the process has done, because the NCAA, without a doubt, has been run into the ground by Mark Emmert. You've taken the Oklahoma, Nebraska, and you've taken the Texas and the Texas A&M rivalries out of the room where people had an identity so that maybe around Turkey Day or maybe around the holidays, you knew that you were going to have a national rival. Those rivals are no longer there. Why should I tune in to Nebraska versus Iowa? Who cares? Who cares? Texas A&M, Missouri's not a rival. So what's going to happen because of this Bryce Young? And what you know what I love about it too? Nick Saban's not bitching at all about it. Yeah, you think some of these old coaches would be going like this. Well, I don't know, man. Maybe this is really not going to be good for college football. And they're all doing this. Great. He wouldn't release any of the details, but this kid's going to make $1 million. Whew. You imagine with that football team last year when they had Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, and you had N'Keal Harry and Mac Jones and that entire offensive line. Those guys would have been billionaires before they went to the NFL if you had that football team last year with that nil law. Holy cow, man. Those guys would have made bank. They would have made bank. All right, I want to hit on the Steelers. Do I think that Mike Tomlin's on the decline, or are they going back up again? I'll hit on that. We'll do it next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at IBEW98.org.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. I'm looking for a picture of Big Sills' Corvette that I had, and I'm going to try to tweet it out here. When I was at Miami, someone was like, Sills. And my boy Krause goes, look at this guy making $1 million. I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I'm not saying that I made that kind of money, but now that we are understanding that kids are going to be able to make money, I'll take you behind the scenes a little bit at the University of Miami back in the day. And if you ever ask Eric Dickerson how much money he's made when he was at SMU, remember what they did to SMU, right? They put him on the death penalty. Where's that beautiful Corvette? Had 3 miles on it. God, I love that car. Jimmy Johnson. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to tweet it out. I'm going to put National Football Show. The National Football Show. I'll put JAKIB Media. JAKIB Media. Big Sills. Big Sills Miami car. Okay, here we go. C-A-R. Okay, I just tweeted it. Tell me what you think. There we go. National Football Show, JAKIB Media, Big Sills, Miami car. Boom. See it right there? Oh, look at that bad dog. That's in the Miami Hurricane parking lot. Isn't that thing? Look at that bad puppy. Oh, that thing was beautiful. That's a car I drove around at the university. That's my very first car. Okay? Look at it there. How you doing? Cal, retweet. There you go. Look at the guys working it. Look at that. Very good. I didn't need a nil. I had my own nil. I was on my own program. Way to go, Cal. Look at that bad dog. Isn't that a beautiful vet? 2 miles on it. 2 miles on it. Remember something, too. Eric Dickerson had a Trans Am. I know most Italians hang in there with the Trans Am, but Big Sills was like, no Trans Am. That's a little bit rednecky for me. Not doing Trans Ams. I want a Corvette. So what did I do? And I didn't have to do very much when I was in college. And why was that? Well, because we won. Nil program, nil law. See, hey, even my boy Krause's got to go. Look at Big Sills there with his, look at that. How many kids drive around a $60,000 car in college? Hey, Don, I was one of many, though. Now that we've pulled the curtain back and everybody's able to make money, I think you're going to hear more of these stories. I'll give them to you. So once you became a starter at the University of Miami, I won't name names because some of these guys are still friends of mine and associated with the program. But here's what it was at Miami. 10 tackles and was $100. A sack was another $100. So my final year at Miami, I had 91. I had 91 tackles, and I had 7 sacks. I led my team, my defensive tackles. I included Jerome Brown. I outplayed Jerome. Jerome missed a couple games, though. Don't kid yourself. He's the greatest defensive lineman ever come out of our program. Jerome was spectacular. Not even saying that. So we'd have a guy come in, and there'd be an envelope. And you're looking for your envelope, and it says, you see it in your mailbox, and you go, and there's a $100 bill in there. Oh, I think you forgot that sack, I think hey, Jackson, I think you forgot that sack. Oh yeah, here's the 100. Or you'd show up to an alumni event. Guy, Dan, so great to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. Da-da-da-da Chevrolet. Hey, man, I really appreciate, the fact that you have me. Here's $500. Wow. This is great. Thank you very much. Alonzo Highsmith said it when he was standing there at our awards banquet. Alonzo Highsmith, now know this, was the 3rd player selected in the NFL draft by the Houston Oilers. He looked over at me and everybody who was on that podium, and he looked over at us and went, I wish I had 4 more years. Yeah. Hey, we all do, man. That was so much fun. There were so many people. I told you the story. I went home once with like $8,000 in a brown paper bag. My grandfather told me to give it back. It was an agent, and it was the right thing to do. I had taken like $1,500 to have a meal at Sparks Steakhouse in New York or something. I took my buddy. We had $450 meals, these gigantic lobster dinners, man. It was crazy. And so we went down there. We had a great time. It was just, but that stuff was going on at every school that was winning. Every school was winning, was coming up to the kids and you had to really be careful because you couldn't let it get out of hand. I know a guy that I played with, I won't say his name. This guy had $30,000 in his pocket. I saw him with like 30 grand in this like knapsack that he had, and he carried it and passed out $100 bills. Here's 100. Be like, man, I want to get me some of that. So this new nil thing, you know what it's going to do? Tim Brando said it a couple of weeks ago. It's just going to make it more visible on what was going on. Now a guy at a car dealership giving a kid $50 or $500, it's totally above board. I don't really think college football is going to change at all. Now, when it comes to like certain programs having an advantage, well, dude, that comes with winning. If you win, your program, you don't think people like at Penn State, or you don't think Pitt, or you don't think Ohio State. Look at what those guys got in trouble a couple of years ago with, what was it, the Tattoo 5? I mean, how dumb is that you wrecked a career in Jim Tressel? Jim Tressel is one of the greatest college football coaches. He's now the president of Youngstown State. And I've asked Jim numerous times, is he ever going to get back into coaching again? And he basically said, no, I'm enjoying it. And I think he won a couple national championships. I think it was Division I AA. And he won a couple national titles there before he won that national title against Miami when he was at Ohio State. By the way, illegal flag. They didn't really win it. They stole that from Miami. Thank you. That would have been number 6 for us too, by the way. Late flag, completely hijacked at the Fiesta Bowl. It's the worst call. I'll never go to that game. And by the way, I want to show you something too of that Fiesta Bowl. Look at this. I love the Fiesta. I love the Fiesta Bowl people. And look at what they try to do every year. They try to get me to go to the game every year. And I just say this. No, I don't think so. Yeah, Cal, that Penn State stuff. Yeah. No, they keep asking me to go to that game. And they want me to like do some ceremony. I'm like, no. I lost that game. Big Sills don't show up to places that he ends up losing. That ain't going to happen. That's not going to cut it. No way. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Guys like Bryce Young and these guys that are going to be able to make and benefit from their play at their institution. Get this. So now these kids, if they don't make it in the NFL, and the kids that don't make it in the NFL, but if they have some impact on a team winning a national championship, you get a chance to make some money on the way out and maybe start your life. I think that is spectacular. I think it's a great thing. Maybe you make $50,000, $60,000 being part of a team that won a national title or a very successful team. You get to start your life doing that. How is that a bad thing? As a matter of fact, if I was the school, if I was Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, USC, I'd be promoting that. Look at what these kids did. They came to USC, and these guys ended up benefiting, and these guys ended up making money, getting an education. Watch this. Making money, getting an education, and winning football. Tell me the problem with that. Why has the NCAA always had their thumb so down on that? What's the absolute problem with that? I'm not getting it. Okay, enough with that. I mentioned the Steelers. Oh, real quick, before I get into the Steelers here, I'm going to make a comparison on Aaron Rodgers to an athlete that is so hypersensitive. By the way, I got accused prior to going on the air today by Krause and Cal that, man, Sills. Oh, and maybe because my aunt watches it and some of my best friends watch this thing. Man, Sills, you get a little bit over the top and you get a little bit angst. And hey, man, when you do shows like this, little pressure, sometimes you get a little bit. I didn't want to use the term unraveled. Okay. I'm not using that term unraveled. But what you do is, you're like, oh man, I got to take everything off the table here. And so I'm not comparing myself to these two dudes because I think these guys are really hypersensitive. Because I don't really care what you think of me. Okay? I don't. I could care less. As a matter of fact, I was telling you the other day, like my friend Howard Eskin, if you hate Howard Eskin, Howard goes, beautiful. What did he say? Hey, I don't want an apology. I just want all of you to kiss my ass. Every time I play that soundbite, I text him the other day. I go, dude, I play that sometimes before I go to bed. It's so funny, man. I don't care. I just want you to kiss my ass. He's so right. It's a merit badge, man. But Aaron Rodgers here's the comparison to Kevin Durant. Like, Aaron Rodgers must watch all these like sports talk shows and listen to sports radio because he commented that he had somebody cleaning his house in Green Bay. And he goes, oh, don't read anything into that. Don't read anything into that. I always have somebody clean my house because he's living in California right now. And he's like, that doesn't mean I'm coming back. And that was on the internet. And if you say anything to Katie, who said that I was unhappy in San Francisco, who said I didn't like my teammates. Hey, Kevin, who cares? Why are we all so... Is it really that Twitter and Facebook and these platforms, maybe I'm not looking at it right because look at what the president of the United States, when he was on those platforms. Oh, and by the way, you notice one thing about the suspension for Trump? They're 2 years. Oh, just in time for the 2024 election. Gee, really? Okay, really? If you're going to keep a guy like that off the social media platforms, you ban him for life. Trump's got a 2-year. That's the next election year. That's the next election cycle. You get the midterms next year. Then you got after that, you got the stretch run for the presidency in 2024. And so you're going to put the guy back because you know why? You know what that guy does to your Twitter page and to your social media platforms. He creates a ton of traffic. There's no doubt the engagement on Twitter's been down since Trump's not been on that thing. Okay? And look at what that guy does. That guy says anything or anybody. It's a place where you can make anything up. It's like a fairy tale book. Hey, did you see what Trump said about the dead soldiers? He called them lowlifes, which isn't true. Wall Street Journal came out and said it wasn't true. Oh, yeah, we made that up. Oh, yeah, after the election. Oh, we made that up. Oh, okay. That whole Russian hoax thing, I mean, those guys won Pulitzer Prizes doing it. And they were complete fabrications. It was a complete fabricated story. You won a Pulitzer Prize? I used to actually think that award mattered. They were doing it for 4 years, and they won an award of the esteem of the Pulitzer Prize for telling lies. And people didn't care. It just sounded good. And now you see athletes. Kevin Durant. I didn't say that I was unhappy. Who cares, Kevin? Why answer it? I've learned a big lesson from Trump when he was on Twitter. Don't respond to these idiots. And when you do, mute them. It's the greatest thing on the planet. I discovered this about a year ago. When there's a complete drive-by media hack, I just go like this. Dude, another internet assassin, mute. And it aggravates them more. Because I don't want to hear you. I don't care. But Kevin Durant can't, man. This guy's been accused of having like 14 burner accounts. Right? These two guys, man. You say anything publicly about them, Aaron Rodgers and Kevin Durant, you're like this. Look at these guys engaging with a guy with an egg on his Twitter page and 8 followers. He's engaged with that guy. And you're like, why? Why? Because it's public? To me, it's like the outhouse wall of social media. That's what Twitter is. It's an outhouse wall. This guy is a jackass. Signed, Bob was here. You know, you're in the urinal and you're like, that Bob is a tool. Right? Bob is a tool. It's an outhouse wall. That's what you're reading. Guys, you see, there was a guy today that wrote something. Sileo, you said monkeys in 2012. You're an awful human. I'm like, guy, another internet assassin. Mute. I don't care. Complete mistake. But, you know, see, Stephen A. Smith can say Shohei Ohtani can't be the face of baseball because he's Asian. I make a mistake, and you hold that against me. That's my – and by the way, talking to my boys, I don't care what Stephen A.'s point was. I care that that point is not looked at as what I did too. He apologized, made a mistake, he said. Not me. That dude gets a hall pass. Gee, let me edit myself. I wonder why. Okay, let's get on to the Steelers here. So I asked my friend Howard Balzer, thumbs up or thumbs down on the Steelers going into this year. And I think Howard brought a great point up. You know, sometimes when you've had a consistent line of success and consistency for so many decades, sometimes you start to go into some dips here. And when the quarterback is starting to age, like, would we not agree to this? You think the Pittsburgh Steelers have held on to Ben Roethlisberger 1 or 2 years too much? It happened in Miami with Marino. Okay? It didn't happen like that in Denver with Elway, because Elway's last game was a Super Bowl win. He didn't hang on for 2 extra years just to squeeze them puppies out. And by the way, the 49ers, they made a mistake in letting Joe go. Joe took the Kansas City Chiefs to the AFC Championship game. The Chiefs. Prior to that, Patrick Mahomes is the only guy to get a team into the AFC title game. It was Joe Montana was the other guy. I think Joe played 2 years there or something like that. 2 or 3. I don't think it was long. Right? I mean, now you look at Roethlisberger and you're doing this. I don't know. Maybe they should have moved off him last year, taking a couple bumps and bruises just to try to find a guy. I know they signed Dwayne Haskins, but is that really going to be the answer to the future of the football team? Look at what the Steelers have actually lost in the last 6 years. Think about it, okay? They lost Ryan Shazier. Remember him? He got paralyzed, the linebacker. He was a guy that was the Gronk equalizer. He could play the seam. He was awesome on tight ends, and he could play the run. He was a better version, in my opinion, and I think highly of DB, Derek Brooks. He was a better version of Derek Brooks. He was a Tampa 2 type defender that could play at that linebacker position that I thought was, of all the players they've lost over the last 6 years, I think he's the most essential guy because he was some factor on that football team. Their front seven is real good, but when he was on it, they were electric. TJ Watt's been a great pass rusher. I'm all of that. But Ryan Shazier was sensational. Gronk had struggles with him. Gronk, when he got hurt, Gronk ate that Steeler off defense up. Just ate them up. They lost AB. They lost Le'Veon Bell. Howard talked about the offensive line that's been decimated this past offseason here. So the Steelers right now, in my opinion, I think they're trending down. Would it shock me if the Steelers ended their season this year 7-10? No. Because Ben Roethlisberger decided that this was the year at 39 or whatever the hell he is, that he's not going to eat like yodels. And he's not going to eat cream cakes and donuts. Hey, I'm in shape now. Why is that, Ben? Have you been working out? No. I've cut back on my donut intake. Yeah. Ben Roethlisberger's off-season conditioning program is cutting back on donuts. This guy's a doughboy. Hey, seriously, man. Hey, Ben, so were you doing like sprints and stuff? And were you getting ready for the upcoming season? Yeah, no, I really worked hard, man. I ran around my pool a little bit and, I was diving off my pool. I was taking my trash cans down off the hill, down on Oakland. I live over in the Oakland section of Pittsburgh. Taking them trash cans down that hill, man. And then the big one, my wife didn't go to Dunkin' Donuts, man. Not having them Krellers and then jelly donuts, man, has been a real sacrifice for me to play this year. I've lost 38 pounds. 38 pounds just by laying off the donuts and not eating the Krellers? Oh, and the milk. I don't eat the milk. Oh. Okay. Sounds like the Steelers are ready for a prime season. Okay. Yeah, when Ben Roethlisberger's off-season conditioning program is laying off 3 jelly donuts, you may be going to have a good season. Just in the nick of time, right? All them years of eating them jelly donuts, man. This is the year. Hey, I'm in my best shape of my life. I bet you are, man. When you cut back 3 jelly donuts, when you cut back on 3 jelly donuts in the morning, remember something. That's just morning intake. Big Ben. There's a reason you call him Big Ben. 3 jellies in the morning, 3 before you go to bed at night. Glass of milk. How you doing? All right. We will take a look at, and by the way, one of the favorite topics for my boy Krause is vaccinations. Oh, Michael Irvin saying something again on it. We'll hit on it next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Dan Sileo, National Football Show. 3 jelly donuts. That's Ben Roethlisberger's preparation for the upcoming season, laying off him. 39. What a fat guy. Of all, when that guy takes his shirt off, like at training camp, seriously, shades are needed. Like, dog, man, come on. Okay, I want to eat my meal here, man, you know. Tom Brady has turned his body into being a donut factory, into being an elite athlete. Ben Roethlisberger, I compare him to Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony came out of college at Syracuse the same year that LeBron did. One guy's a fat turd, and the other guy's an elite athlete. You know, and all of a sudden now Carmelo's like, yeah, no, I got to work on my body. Dude, you're 40 years old. Why? What's the point? Oh, I'd like to play a couple more years. Oh, maybe you should have did that when you were 22, when you came out of Q's. Oh, by the way, the car tweet is picking up some steam here. Yeah, I got some folks here like, let's see, Hitman. Oh, yeah, Blaine Bishop, Pro Bowler, likes it. Paid for by the bag man. Go Canes. Very good. Very good. JAKIB Media, too. You can go over to Dan Sileo Show to see the Big Sills Miami Hurricane Corvette. Here, I'll give you one more peek of it here. At Dan Sileo Show here. Yeah, this was the Big Sills ride. Talk about a magnet in college. Look at that thing. How you doing? Ain't you drive down South. See, South Beach wasn't like what it is today. South Beach was terrible. South Beach was like if you ever watched Scarface. That's what South Beach was. When they shot that guy in the middle of the road, that's what South Beach was. It's a terrible area. But you go down like Coconut Grove. How you doing? Yeah. Hey, Big Sills is here. Want to ride? Hey. It's all good. So, here, Michael Irvin, you know what? You can always tell when there is a topic that pushes buttons. What do you think is going to be a button pusher to people who are non-sports fans? Look, it's funny. Krause goes like this. Jesus criminy. Not vaccination conversation again. You know why? He's a sports fan. Sports fans don't. P1s, those are the people that we'll always have as sports fans. Those dudes don't give a crap about that. They want to know who you think's going to win the NFC East. They don't give a, they don't care about that. But the people that are kind of like fringe fans, well, should I go to a game? I mean, COVID and mask and da-da-da and identity politics, da-da-da-da. Those are hot topics that push the button for people. Michael Irvin knows this. That's why Michael Irvin would. Here's a guy here. And look, I'm going to be very careful because he's my friend. Okay, the cocaine issues, and now we're talking about wearing a mask and vaccinating yourself. Okay, we're looking out for one's health. Okay, hey, we can all turn new leaves over, I think. Okay, right? I'm all right. Grow up. You push the blow away. It's okay. What's Dana say? Hey, you know what? That cocaine's very expensive. Right? Okay. We're worrying about vaccinations now. He says he's disappointed that the Dallas Cowboys are not all vaccinated. Actually, what's being reported is that half the team's not. And how about this? The biggest name won't say whether or not he's been vaccinated. That's Dak Prescott. And I think Mike's aiming that at him. And that Dak Prescott would be a Pied Piper for the vaccination campaign that the NFL seemingly is on now, that all players should be vaccinated. See, the NFL can't tell players to get vaccinated. They can't. They could just make it hard for you. It's against the law to do that. I've been saying that. So you think Michael Irvin is aiming vaccinations at the third team defensive end? You think he's talking to an offensive lineman? Or do you think he's talking about the star quarterback who just got $42 million? He's talking to Dak. He's not talking to anybody else but that dude. Dak, it'd be really beneficial if you were out there front and center and showing everybody that you're vaccinated. Maybe that might make the entire team do it. And maybe that might even be a community. But you have no right to do that. And by the way, if you're on that side of the aisle, that is going to be something that you're going to pimp and you're going to push. Is that, hey, the more faces and more public notoriety that we can get with superstar people that are vaccinated, you might get people to go, well, and as I said to you yesterday, it's not the Trump people who aren't vaccinated. It's Latinos and African Americans. Only 19% African Americans and Latinos are vaccinated. It's probably a distrust with the government. I don't know. I just threw that out there. So it's got nothing to do with that. And those are Democrats, aren't they? Just saying. Mike's aiming this at Dak. So, know the room. He ain't talking to a 13 linebacker on that team or some offensive coordinator or some wide receiver coach. All right. I saw a story today. And, I got to tell you, I can't actually wait to see what this guy's journey is going to be this year. And believe it, it's a really weird story. It's a really weird dude. He's been on, I think, 9 different football teams, and his name is Ryan Fitzpatrick. You know what he said today? This was as they're getting ready to go into training camp, and they're getting ready to try to defend the NFC East crown that they won a year ago, maybe by default, right? It was a pretty good defensive football team. I think it's the best defense in that division. But he said this is the best environment. Washington, wow. This is the best coaching staff. Wow. This is the best situation when it comes to being the guy that I've had in my 17 years. That says a lot. This guy has thrown for over 40,000 yards in his career. This guy's got quite a resume. This guy's thrown for more passing yards than Troy Aikman, Terry Bradshaw. I mean, he's thrown for a boatload of yards. I actually like Ryan Fitzpatrick. And if Fitzpatrick can play like he did in New York with the Jets a couple years ago, I think that Washington team is going to be in line to potentially repeat because they have the defense. The Giants have the best defense along with the Reds. There, I did it. The Washington team in that division, personally, I don't really care. But I do it because it makes you feel good. And the best quarterback in that division is Dak. So you always go with the best quarterback in each division because that traditionally ends up playing itself out. All right. We really appreciate everybody coming aboard with us as you always do each and every single day. Thank you so much. Don't forget, hey, Krause and Cal, thank you, Big Joe. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, if you missed the show, you can go over to the JAKIB Media channel and you can like it, share it, watch it later, do whatever. We really appreciate it. 4 to 6 Eastern time. Till then, we'll see you on the flip side.